Good day, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Lizette de Villiers, and I will be the host for this session. A warm welcome to the first webinar of the Shadowmatch User Accreditation Certificate Training. Now, as you know, if you attend all the user training certificate sessions, you will be eligible for your certificate at the end of these sessions. And dear participants, as highlighted previously, if you miss one of the sessions, don't stress. The recording of the session will be placed on the events calendar on various websites, the shadowmatch.co as well as the shadowmatch.com website. You can always watch the recording afterwards, and then you can send a one-page summary of the content of the recording to info@shadowmatch.co.za. We will mark your paper, and then we will also indicate that you have attended the webinar that you've missed live as a live session. Please keep in mind that we actually do keep roll calls. So we look at the screen today and we mark you off. So if your name is not appearing on the screen, please let us know who you are. There are some names that we can't identify. It's just important so that we know you attend all the sessions, should you be interested in obtaining your certificate at the end of the session. Dear participants, keep in mind that you can also attend only selected sessions, so you don't have to attend all the sessions. If you are interested in the certificate, obviously it will be great if you attend all the user accreditation training sessions, but you might only be interested in some of the topics, and then you're welcome to only attend those sessions, purely to gain more knowledge about Shadowmatch and how the system works. You know by now that this session is recorded, and that's purely to place the recording on the calendar after the session. We will have an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of the presentation. By then, I will enable the setting for you to unmute yourself and then ask your question. During the course of the presentation, you are welcome to make use of the chat function. You can post your question or any comments in the chat. I will answer as far as possible, or I will collate and then present to Peter at the end of the presentation. I think from my side, dear participants, that's all. I'm going to hand to Peter. Enjoy the presentation. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much, Lizette, and hi, everybody. The topic for today is the psychology of recruitment, and I think Lizette has already shared some of the main information with you around the practicalities of our sessions. Keep in mind that Shadowmatch is a vast system. It's been used in many areas of life, in high schools, in universities, for study methods, and for career decisions, and for career guidance, and for career progress and coaching. It's been used by coaches all over the world, but it's also been used by business. So we refer to this as the primary business engine of Shadowmatch, and how it's been used in business. Obviously, we have videos that show that. And one of the primary functions that Shadowmatch is being used for in the world of business is for optimal placement. And today we talk about the psychology of recruitment as one of those optimal placement functions that we have in business. How do we get people for a job that are successful, and they do the job with optimal success as what is possible on an 80% scale. In other words, they deliver 80% and above of what is expected from them in the job. We want to appoint people that are successful. What we focus on today and next week is the recruitment process. So today we talk about the psychology from a recruiter's perspective of recruitment. The psychology of applying for a job is something completely different. There we get into the anxiety, symptoms of anxiety and stress, even trauma if people are not successful with an application for a job. But that today we look at the psychology of the recruiter, the person that must decide who to appoint to a specific job, or the process that is being followed. So what I will do is I will take you through the psychology today. You are welcome to obviously ask questions, and Lizette will, if there are some of the questions that she feels might be applicable to the broad audience, she will hold them back so that I will be able to handle them at the end. The reason why I cannot handle questions during the sessions, I have an inability to multitask. I just can't do it. I battle to do one task at a time. So what about 3 and 2 of them? So I will share with you the screen, and then we will start immediately with the topic of the psychology of recruitment and from a recruiter's perspective. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at the process of recruitment or the psychology that underpins this process, there are many things that we need to keep in mind, and I will go through them as the most prominent ones that influence our decision on who do we decide to place in a specific job in a business, whether we are a recruitment agency, whether we are HR in a business, or whether we are the manager of a division and I would like to recruit somebody for my team, or there are also targeted selection recruitment processes. Why do we appoint specific people? This is a question that's been studied for many years, and this question has been researched, and a lot of things came out of the research, and some of the research indicated some weird things, some very weird things that obviously the scientific side of it is a bit questionable, but these are the primary indicators why we appoint specific people to a job, and why do we recruit and select specific people. The first thing that we must understand, ladies and gentlemen, and this has been proven all over in all the science, is that I work with a perception of who I want for a job. And everybody else does this. We all do this. I build up a perception, a picture, a mental frame, a mind frame of who is it that I envisage to be the person for the job. Now, this picture is a very weird situation because we do it, whether we do it consciously and deliberately or not, we do it. And if we start to investigate this, we see that we have perceptions. If I am out and I need to recruit somebody as a technician that must work in the field on the last mile of installing internet connections, I have a specific picture of who and what this person is. And this is a perception. Remember, this is a perception. It's something that I build up from my history of X many years in the world of business and technology, and it comes together, and I work with this picture or this idea or this framework of who is it that will be able to do this job. Now, these perceptions are subjective. They are, we cannot control any of the content of these subjective pictures, and it's very difficult to determine where they come from. There's a research that was published about 20 years ago where this researcher found that men, when they recruit somebody like their mothers. And women, when they recruit somebody like their fathers. It couldn't be proved. The science of that is just too thin. So and a lot of these papers have been published. What we do know is that these perceptions are subjective. So I come with an idea that I've made up from information from somewhere, and it's an idea that I have built. It's about me. The first thing that we must say to one another is that this perception is, firstly, it's about me, who I am. It's very important to understand that the me, I am the dominant content builder of the perception that I have when I start looking for somebody for a job in the business where I work, or for one of my clients if I am a professional recruiter. Then it's about the team. We build up a picture of who will this person work for, but it's a picture that I build up. I might go to the team in the technical department and say, okay, let's talk about this new person that you need for the job. And I discuss with the team, and I build up a perception of the team in which my identity plays another critical role. Who am I? And I envisage things like, what will I do in this team? What does the team expect from somebody? So it's all about me and then the next thing. And then thereafter, my perceptions of the job. This we can talk about for a week, because I have case studies where a team of people assessed what is needed for a job, and they all got together, and then we applied in a scientific process to determine in a scientific way what is necessary for the job. And we were all wrong, all of us. We were all wrong, and we had interviews, we discussed, but every one of us, I was part of that test run. Every one of us had the opportunity to interview the people where this job must be filled, and we all came up with our own ideas of what the job needs. And eventually, when it was tested in a scientific way, we were all wrong. So it's followed by my expectations. I have an expectation of how do I envisage this person to be in the job, and I have an expectation about the individual that I recruit. And that expectation is, for all of it, just something that I put together from the information that I gather, and my identity plays a critical role in determining what these expectations are. Then I tend to build a picture of who I want for the job. This is the critical thing about the psychology of recruitment, is that I build up a picture of what I want. Whether I have interviewed the team, whether I have interviewed the management, whatever I've done, the picture has been built by me. So that is important for us to understand, that my identity plays a critical role in the process of building up who I want. The picture is built on who I am. This is the first critical learning moment that we need when we determine who we recruit and what is the underlying psychology of recruitment. The picture that we build is about who I am. My identity is critical in the building blocks of the picture that I put together when I start working towards a recruitment process where I am the decision maker. The interview process is a process of matching the application with my perceptions about two things: the applicant and what the business needs. That's all it is. The interview process is a process whereby I match my perceptions of the person with my perceptions of what the business needs. Both are based on my perceptions. My perceptions are based on who I am. Then the last one that we need, just to conclude this part of our discussion, is what dominates the process in my perceptions. This is a critical question. We need to determine what is it that makes me build up a specific picture that determines the person that I'm looking for, as well as the job that I need to fill the position. It boils down to a very basic principle, or a very basic psychology. We appoint people whom we like. We appoint people who we think will be able to do the job. This is absolutely critical, and it's been there is a lot of science about this. And when we start to investigate the process, we come to the conclusion that we appoint people whom we like, and we appoint people whom we think, we have a perception that this person will be able to do the job. Now, I don't want to go into the stats of how successful we are, but it doesn't look that good. The success is not very high if we work with these perceptions. So the question that we need to ask is, the psychology of people preference. Who do we like? It's a physical thing, and it's very complicated. Now, we all know that when we meet somebody new, we make up our minds about the person within the first, it's said to be 90 seconds. I challenged that. I had been in a research process many years ago where I think 90 seconds is a bit quick, but it's within the first 5 minutes. And we decide whether we like a person initially based on physical matters. It's a physical thing, and it's extremely complicated. We build these pictures of people that we like over the history of our existence. We start building pictures of people that we like when we are 3 months old, probably. And we keep on building on these pictures new ideas and concepts and perceptions of who we like and obviously whom we don't like. But the point is that sometimes we have that immediate, I like this person. And the reasons behind this, we just cannot unravel that. It's just too complicated, but it's based on physical things. It's based on the physical presentation of the individual we meet. It might be, there are hundreds of things: dress, the build of the person, the eye color, the tone of voice, the way they sit, the way they talk, their body language. There are millions of complexities in building this attachment to a person that we might like or not like. We easily, this is quite an important point that we need to take note of, the delegates, is that we easily attach to people who are like us. This is, and remember, this is also a perception. There's a saying, opposites attract. It could never be proved. There's the scientific basis of that saying. It's just a saying that we like saying when we see that two opposites got married, and then when they got divorced, we say, oh yes, they attract, but they didn't last, but let's leave it. We are attracted to people who are like us. It's a natural thing. We cannot stop it. We can try and resist it and then actively become sort of artificially attracted to people who are not like us, but then that's a resistance psychology, which is something different. But the norm is the majority of people are attracted to people like I am attracted to people like me. And this holds everything. It's about all the things that I can put together about myself, the way in which we communicate, the language we use, the preferences we have, the views we have about the world, etc., etc., etc. We can carry on with this. But the point is, we are easily attached to people who are like us. So in the workplace, we prefer people on our level. This is quite an interesting thing that we need to keep in mind. We prefer, the majority of individuals prefer people to be part of their workplace, to be on their level. What do we mean by on their level? We don't know. Because when we investigate these things and when we ask questions, they use exactly these words. I prefer somebody on my level. But we cannot really determine what we mean with the person is on my level. What we have determined over the years and what research have indicated is that people would prefer somebody whom they can match in terms of knowledge, in terms of experience, in terms of competencies. They don't want people who are less than themselves, and they don't want people more than themselves. They prefer people on their level of understanding the principles of business or the job at hand or the task or the technology that they have to work with. So they want people to match their level of competency in the job and their perception of what that level should be. Those who fit my perceptions of competence And it must be, we have this thing, the person must be on my level. Now, sometimes, and there's a lot of research being done in this regard, that sometimes managers fear people who are their superiors. What do I mean with somebody who is my superior? They might be more qualified, more skills, sometimes just more capable. Keep in mind, delegates, that we are not equal in our capabilities. And this is just something that we must accept. We are not equal in our capabilities. I'm a big advocate of equality of all people, but in the value of people, obviously, but in the capabilities of people, we are not equal. And that's why sometimes you win a tennis match and sometimes you lose, because the person on the other side of the court is just more capable than you are. That's it. That is it. Some people fail mathematics, and some people thrive on mathematics. What is it? The one is more capable in maths than the other one. So it's not something new or something strange, but sometimes we experience managers fear people who are their superiors, especially when they have to report to that manager. So how do I now manage somebody who is more clever, more qualified, more skilled, and more capable than me? How do I manage that person? And they fear that scenario, so they would like to have somebody either on their level or just below their level of competencies. So is that a bad thing that we appoint people that we like? No, it's not. It's not a bad thing. Is it bad that we are attracted for the workplace to people that we feel comfortable with, and we have an attachment to them, and they qualify all these things? They fulfill the expectations that I have about, they are on my level, they are like me, they talk the same way that I talk about the business, and I have this perception. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing, but it's not the only thing. We must work with facts as well. We must be very aware of the fact that I can have it all wrong. My perceptions might be all wrong, and statistically speaking, if we look at the success of recruitment in the masses of the work that's been done, if we just work with I appoint the people that I like, the stats are not on our side. We are not doing well for the outcome of success of the people that we appoint. Being successful in a job is not what gets done for me, but with what gets done for the business. So it's not about, primarily it's not about me, it's about the business. But I might be the voice of the business to recruit for the business. I always say to people, recruiting somebody for a business is like buying clothes for somebody, and you don't know what the size or the color preferences of this person is, but you need to buy clothes. So you go to the clothing shop and you buy the clothes that you think it'll fit this person. You've never seen the person before, and you think the colors are the colors of preference of that person, that they like red and pink and yellow together. The point is, we don't know the size of the clothing that we need to buy, and we don't know the design or the looks of it. This is what we do when we recruit on our perceptions. We buy clothes for somebody that we don't know. Then this is the list of equal priorities. I don't want you to think that first on the agenda is the first of priority. First on the agenda of equal priorities between these three is the interest of the business. We must work with the fact that the interest of the business comes first. Remember, the heading is it a bad thing that we recruit people that we like? No, the answer is no, not at all. But the first thing is the priorities of the business must take the first position in our priority list. The second priority, equally important, is the interest of the newly recruited individual. This, delegates, friends of Shadow Match, is a massive issue. This is one of the mistakes we make. we do not recruit always in the best interest of the individual. We do not recruit saying that I cannot recruit somebody who will be at risk to fail, because failure is the most devastating impact that we can impose on somebody. Failure is something, and if you go on us for the journey of the year, you will hear me say these sentences or this sentence probably 200 times. But failure must be prevented at all costs, because it destroys the psychology and the ego position of an individual. And if I, as the recruiting agent or the recruiter in HR or the manager, if I recruit somebody with a risk that that person might fail, I am the author of writing a seriously devastating chapter in the psychology of that individual. I cannot do it. Then the third is the interest of the relationship at work. The relationships with team members, the relationships with managers, with other colleagues, these relationships are critical in the onboarding process of a new employee. And those relationships are some of the key building blocks in the success of the individual as they come into the business. So the problem is not the fact that we appoint people whom we like. We said that's not the problem. So what is the problem? We will do it anyway. We will in any way do this. We will appoint the person that we like. The problem is that this selection point, in other words, to choose the people we like, is sequentially in the wrong place of the recruitment process. We have this decision of who do I like in the wrong place of the process. If we look at the sequence of events, we tend to put this point of selection in the wrong place of these sequence of events, of the sequence of events. We cannot start with the interview and then decide, out of the 40 people that I've seen, I like these 10. We can't do that. It's wrong. So this is when we put perceptions above facts. This is when we put perceptions, subjective perceptions above real scientific facts. So we must, that's not wrong. It's the wrong position where we do this. It's the wrong place in the process. The point of selecting the person we like is the last step of the recruitment process and not the first. And this, delegates, is where we make the mistake. We have the interview process too early in the recruitment chain of events. Because now, let's say I'm now recruiting somebody for shadow match, and I see 10 people, and I like these 3. And I'm over the moon about these 3. And then I determine, after I have decided that I like these 3, that they're not qualified. They don't have the habits for the job. They don't have the skills for the job. They don't have the abilities to do the job. Now, the entire process, I've wasted my time. Or what some recruiters and managers do, they push through and they say, but I know people and I know the job and they take an authoritative position and they force the thing through, and then eventually it doesn't work. And I have injured the person and I have caused a lot of damage and costs to the business. So what I will do, delegates, is let me show you the mistakes we make. The first thing is we get applicants to apply for a job. So we have the applicants in, and then this is now a good process. Then we have the first firewall. I refer to this as firewalls because a firewall is something, it's a wall that prevents a fire to just go on a free range of destroying everything. So we want only one person. So the first firewall, for instance, is we check qualifications. Are these people qualified? And then you can see we now have slightly less, because some people presented qualifications that are not really applicable for the job as we see it. Then we have a second firewall. We do our assessments. Shadow match obviously is a very powerful assessment in this process. And then the list is slightly less. So we have less people. Then we have our next firewall, and we have interviews. We interview these 3 people, and now we must say to one another, don't choose the one you like here. Choose the one you like here. It's fine. Go and choose the one you like, but not there. Because when you choose that, let's say, for instance, you've selected those 3 that you like, and they miss the first firewall. Now you say, okay, but the ones that I also like are those 2, and they also miss the firewall. And then you say, okay, but I like this one, and then that one also missed the firewall. They are either not, they don't have the skills, or whatever it might be. But the point is, the interview process is not a problem. It must be at the end, when I have my final shortlist, because then we overcome all the psychological traps that we might experience in the way of our recruitment. Another thing that is being asked quite often, delegates, is should the individuals we appoint know why they have been selected? The question here is, I have 25 people who applied for 2 jobs, let's say two jobs in technical. And they go through the filters and the firewalls, and eventually I appoint 2 specific individuals. Must I tell them why I have appointed them? This question has more weight than what we think. There are 2 answers to this question. Don't go and say to me, Peter, there's a third question, sometimes and sometimes not. No, because let me tell you why. Then you do not treat all the people that apply for work equally with the same yardstick and the same process, and that's unfair towards somebody. That will be unfair at some point in time. There are 2 questions to this answer, delegates, and that is, yes, we must do it, and no, we shouldn't do it. If we look at these 2 answers, so we don't tell them why they have been appointed, and we really do a proper analysis of what is the best. Then we come up and we say, the winning answer to this question is yes. There are more solid arguments for than against this question. So the winning answer on a scientific and a responsible people management way, it's yes, we should tell them. But it's very difficult. Remember, you can't tell the person the manager liked you. It's not good practice. You cannot do that. You must also remember that in some countries, these processes are tightly managed by legislation. And yes, we've appointed you because the manager liked you. We can't do this. That is not a reason. You can't do that. It's not a solid reason. So the question is, why do we want the person to know that they have been selected? It's a great motivation point. Imagine that you apply for a job, and I can say to you, you know what, when you did the shadow match worksheet, we found that you have almost exactly the same habitual patterns in your behavior as our top performers in the job. And we found that when you did skills grid, that you have almost the exact skills and the intensity of skills as displayed by our top performers. And you did excellent in the interview. We selected you. It's a great motivation. It's a great motivation because it tells the person, I can become a top performer. I can be amongst the best. It makes a statement about the new recruit and the business. It says, we found in you what we have in the business. We have decided to check the habits of our top performers in a collective way, and we have matched you against those habits, and you match their habits. it's a scarcity. We are very glad that we found you. So it tells something about the new recruit and about the business. The business has a solid process in place. It makes the uncertainty of, it manages the uncertainty of the new employee. It says to the new person, the new recruit, you can do it. You have the skills, you have the habits, and you are qualified for the job. You can do it. And our expectation on you is that you must be successful because we have the facts on our side. So the message to current employees is very positive. We know what we are doing. So if you go to a manager and you say to the manager, this person did the best in the interview, where you were a panel member in the interview, and can we show you why the final decision was made about this person? This is how the person matched your top performers in terms of his or her habits. And this is the way that this person matched your top performance in terms of applied skills for the job. The manager says, you've done a smart job. I'm very glad you've done a smart job for me. I'm very happy that you did it. It makes the process objective, scientific, and reliable. It builds a credibility for the process, and it makes the process objective, scientific, and reliable. When we have to do it again, we can do it again. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We will take questions and answers in a minute. Just a point that I want to make is next Wednesday, same time, same place. In other words, where you are now on Zoom, we will show you the optimal recruitment process by using the shadow match system. Remember, it's an extensive system that supports and manages the entire process of recruitment. So we will show you the process, and then my colleague and our general manager at the office, Suzanne, will show you how this process works on the system. Because once you see the process is very visual. It's a visual process of how we follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and appoint. But to see it on the system shows you how powerful the system is in terms of enabling managers and recruitment officers to just do it in a scientific, reliable manner. So we will show you that process next week, and you're more than welcome, obviously, to join us. And same time, same place, Suzanne and I will be for about 12 minutes. Suzanne will then facilitate the rest of the session, showing you on the system how these intriguing graphics can give us the information that we want to make a proper and a solid decision in terms of the recruitment process that we follow. Thank you very much. Lizette, back to you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for an insightful presentation. I'm going to present 2 questions that came in now, and then after that, I will stop the recording before I open the floor for live questions from the participants. The first question is, are there any stats available that gives a recruiter an idea, percentage-wise, how much more accurate does the addition of the shadow match system make the success of the placement of new recruits? So let's do the first question first, Peter.
Yeah, Lizette, it's a very easy answer. If we do a one person recruit by means of an interview, the success of that recruitment process sits on about 7 to 12%. If it's an interview panel, it's about 10 to 15 to 17%. If you follow the recruitment process, suggested by the shadow match team to the T, your success immediately is above 60%. And that when we started shadow match, and when I started building shadow match, we tested it. We had an analysis in different environments, and we came out with these stats. It's immediately. But remember, then you have to follow the process, and the recruitment process. Obviously, our successes are not that high, especially for high-end jobs where people are skilled and they have qualifications. They don't need the job. They can walk to the next employer And our success is we must find the person that is a good fit. So yes, there is research available that obviously that has been done, but these are the numbers.
Thanks, Peter. Last question that came in on the chat for now. In terms of the firewalls that you've displayed, will an initial coffee meeting or coffee meetings, depending on how many people applied for the job in your first slide that you had, with a candidate muddy or clarify the water? Now, from my side, it will obviously make the water more muddy because now I've seen people and already my own likes and dislikes come into play. But let's hear your answer, Peter.
No, Lizette, you can't do that. Sorry, you can't do that. It's obviously, first of all, if more than one person applies for the job, it's unfair. Because the rest of the applicants can say, so why did you only meet this person? Or why did you only meet these three? It's unfair. You can't do it. We must keep the process clean. We can go meet at the coffee shop when there are 3 out of the 20 or whatever the list might be, and they've done shadow match and they've done skills grid and they've been through the panel interview. Then we can go to the coffee shop for a week. I don't care. But you can't do it early in the process because then the entire process is being polluted. You can't do it. So no, don't do it.
Thanks, Peter. Last question or next question. What would be the preference in terms of the order of your firewalls, including qualifications, experience, assessments, initial interview, and formal interview? So what would be the order of priority? Thanks.
Yeah. This is a very solid question, Lizette. Thank you very much for whoever asked the question. Your qualifications, delegates and participants of this discussion is the ticket to the match. It's the ticket to the match. See recruitment as you invite people to come and watch a big tennis match. Well, now in Australia, the tennis matches won't be big anymore because the #1 player has been kicked out. So you invite people. What must be presented at the gate is a ticket. That ticket to the match of being appointed at a company is my qualifications. Do I have the qualifications for this job? That's it. That's the ticket to the match. Thereafter comes, then we follow with, we need to complete the shadow match worksheet because that the behavior of the person carries a lot of weight in the success of the individual and fit in the environment. Then we do skills grid, then we do a panel interview, then we decide who do we like. So yes, it's a critical thing, but it's the ticket to the match. It's a disqualifier. If I need somebody to become a programmer at Shadow Match tomorrow, and the person doesn't have a BIT degree, it disqualifies it. That's it. End of the story. We don't discuss it further. So that's an important note to make. Thanks, Lizzie.
Dear participants, thank you very much. I'm going to enable the setting for you to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have, and you can ask live and then Peter will answer. Allow me to just stop the recording.